And now to the news in full. Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun has visited the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Abeokuta branch over the ongoing cash crunch in the country, with a promise to work with the bank to ensure total compliance with commercial banks on the disbursement of cash to the people. Governor Abiodun stated this during his visit to CBN, where he charged the youths in the state to steer clear of civil disobedience that could lead to the destruction of the economy. Governor's office correspondent Yusuf Daniel reports.
The recent policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria on Naira note swap has become a huge challenge, as they are finding it difficult to access the currency as the extended deadline for swap draw closer. It is for this reason that Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun, whose primary duty is to ensure the welfare and security of the people, visited the CBN to find out ways to collaborate in order to improve on the current level of distribution of the currency so as to diffuse tension that is building up. The controller of the CBN, Wahab Hosseini, said the leadership of the CBN has taken drastic efforts to solve the situation.
What the governor and his team have been doing to alleviate this trouble and the allocation to banks in terms of reach the hinterland, reach the grassroots people, that's based on the agencies, the agents, all these POS and other agents and super agents. Last week he has allocated 40% of whatever we give to commercial bank to go to agents. 40%. For example, if they get 100 million, 40% of that will have to go to agents. 30% to be paid over the counter, OTC. 30% to also to be paid through the machines, that is ATMs. To the extent that we also received microfinance banks, and they also said they have not been involved. That was where the lacuna was coming in. But from tomorrow morning now, except those of them who can come around 4 or 5, but because of the security details they will have to follow, them, they have to make arrangements. That may not be possible today. But money is here that we could also manage.
On his part, Governor Dapo Abiodun noted that in the last 3 weeks, the challenge of shortage of the currency in circulation and what CBN is issuing posed a challenge to many Nigerians. Abiodun, who commended the bank for its new policy, which ensures that 40% cash is paid to agents, 30% paid across the counter, and the remaining paid through the ATM, called on the bank to have a thorough look at the agency banking, which is said it has made withdrawal difficult for the people of the state through outrageous withdrawal fees.
But now the complaints that we hear, and I understand the thinking about we are using the agents because they are the closest to the grassroots. They are meant to, support areas that are underbanked or underserved by banks. But what we've heard by feedback is that these agents have now begun to scam our people, where they charge almost between 20 to 30% of how much is being withdrawn. So you want to cash 5,000, they charge you 1,000 naira. To the point where people are beginning to worry whether this is an arrangement between money deposit banks and agents, where, in fact, someone telling me that agents are even asking people to bring old notes. They give you a premium for your old notes. Then the new notes, of course, you pay through your nose for old notes. This is definitely not thinking of, and can't be thinking of central bank. So we need to look at this.
The governor also acknowledged the role of the bank in the sustenance of the economy, adding that the bank, through its policy in the agric sector, has helped empower over 40,000 people in the state.
When there's a problem, the solution is not in publicly hitting the streets and starting protests. We cannot solve a problem with another problem. So our young ones should not begin or commence any civil disobedience of any sort or disrupt the system. That would be attempting to solve the problem we have at hand with another problem.
The officials of the CBN from Abuja and Lagos were also on ground, assured the government and people of the state that by the end of the week, the issue of fund scarcity would be a thing of the past. Yusuf Ganiyu, OGTV News.
In the meantime, the inability to access money in Nigeria has now become a terrible issue affecting the nation's economy. The situation is due to the change in the currency of Nigeria as citizens struggle to have these new notes which have become scarce commodities. Queen Mary Brown West went around Abeokuta metropolis to see the situation in banks. Her report.
The redesigned new notes has triggered a lot of reactions from the public as it has created a wave of difficulties for Nigerians who expressed their bitterness on the issue.
Hey, the new naira notes is too bad. Everybody collect money, he sell them. Now here for Friday on Saturday, I don't have any kobo in my house. I feel bad about it. If there's anything more than bad, I feel bad.
The situation we're getting is very terrible. The distribution system is not good. This is not the first time we are changing naira in Nigeria, but it should be a longer period, and the decision must be that you can get it across the counter, not only ATM. You must be able to get it across the counter, so that when you get to the bank, at any time of the day, you go straight to the counter, you exchange your naira, the naira you want to exchange. That's what it should be.
The new notes have not been in full circulation as Nigerians queue tirelessly in a bid to get the new currencies from their various financial institutions.
I came here 2 times last week. I couldn't rent. I have to walk back to my house at Idiaba. I've seen it, but I have not hold it.
The process and the way they are going about it is what is not conducive for the people. You can see the way the masses are suffering. If this has been a continuous process that doesn't have a deadline, the naira will be in circulation at the end of the day. But because of the way the deadline, that's why people are rushing. You know, some of our people don't have the orientation on how to go about these things.
Nigerians, however, applaud the government on the redesign of the naira notes, but also appeal to the government to ensure that the new notes go into circulation. The unavailability of the new naira notes have created tension amongst Nigerians as they all call on the government to look into the situation and handle it appropriately. Queen Mary Brown West, OGTV News.
The governments of Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara State have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court seeking a restraining order to stop the full implementation of the Naira redesign policy. The state governments were worried by the effects the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesign policy is having on the residents of the states. In the suits as plaintiffs are the 3 attorneys general and commissioners of justice of the 3 states, while the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, is the sole respondent. The 3 northern states, in a motion expertise filed on the behalf by the lawyer Abdulhakim Mustafa San, are urging the court to grant them an interim injunction stopping the federal government either by itself or acting through the CBN, the commercial banks, or its agents from carrying out its plan of terminating the February 10 time frame within which the old versions of the 200, 500 and 1,000 denominations of the Naira will cease to be legal tender. Meanwhile, 13 out of the 18 political parties in Nigeria have threatened to withdraw from the February 25 and March 11 general elections in Nigeria over the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The national chairman of the Action Alliance, Kenneth Udeze, at a briefing by a coalition of chairmen of political parties on Monday, said the 13 parties commended President Muhammadu Buhari on the redesign of the 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira banknotes. The party said they won't be interested in the elections if the new deadline of February 10, 2023 is shifted as demanded by some governors of the All Progressive Congress APC. The 13 parties also knocked the Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara state governments for heading to the Supreme Court to get court injunction to extend the deadline for the validity of 3 old notes. As fuel scarcity and hiking price continue to bite harder in every nook and cranny of the country, residents have reacted to the causes while calling for an end. Our reporter, Taye Ilekoba, who monitored petrol filling stations in Abeokuta, observed that long queues of vehicles have distorted normalcy at roadsides and filling stations. His report.
Premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, is now one of the most sought-after commodity in Nigeria today. The persistent fuel scarcity has subjected the resident, especially motorists, to chaos and hardships due to the scarcity of the commodity. The situation is now taking a new dimension as some commuters and motorists sleep at filling stations, while some spend their night and day there seeking the highly demanded commodity. Most filling stations are selling the product at a cost of 300 naira per litre and above, which has increased transportation costs and food prices by a high margin nationwide, while just a few filling stations have resorted to the normal selling price of 190 naira per litre. Residents have continued to lament in different ways how the commodity is now difficult to get.
Barely you see a filling station that will sell normal price. All of them have changed their price to 350, 340. Only the reason why you see a queue here is because they are selling normal price, and we can't afford the 350.
The situation is very bad, as you can all see. To buy the fuel at the filling station is a big problem in Nigeria this time around. To collect the money from the bank is a major problem in Nigeria. Where are we going in Nigeria? So we are just appealing to our leaders to help us in Nigeria.
Also, some filling stations are now on temporary lockdown till further notice, while others have nothing to sell to the demanding consumers. With the already existing hardship in the country due to the inflation rate without corresponding increment in salaries of workers, Nigerians have pleaded with concerned authorities to address this situation.
Our government, they have work to do. You have many work to do. Is to go out to settle this matter.
If the government can come out with full force right from the source of getting the fuel right to this stage of dispensation, I think it will be better. But where the government continue to pay nonchalant attitude, there's no task force, everybody continue to do whatever they like. Our hope lies in God, and God will not come down to assist Nigeria until those people in power rise to the situation.
Till date, there has been no tangible reason for the fuel hike, a fuel scarcity, and the consistent long queues at filling stations. Nigerians are now demanding for answers and remedy to this lingering fuel crisis.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has disclosed that an average of 64.42 million litres of premium motor spirit was evacuated daily between January 28 and February 3. The company revealed this in a data report on its Twitter handle. According to the report, Pinnacle Depot transported 57.28 million litres, followed by Aetio with 28.29 million litres. MRS Limited had 24.54 million litres. Others include Masters transporting 22.66 million litres, NIPCO 22.45 million litres, Bluefin 20.08 million litres, while 26 others had between 5 to 16 million litres each. The report also disclosed 1,251 fuel trucks were transported to Lagos State, 847 fuel trucks were transported to the Federal Capital Territory, 372 were dispatched to Oyo State, 311 were transported to Ogun State, 268 were dispatched to Kano, 284 were dispatched to Delta State, 22 to Ebonyi, and 159 fuel trucks were transported to Edo State. The Supreme Court has affirmed Ahmed Lawan as the authentic candidate of Yobe North Senatorial District. In the lead judgment, Justice Santos Uwezi faulted the approach of Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Damaturu Division by way of originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. In the majority decision, the Apex Court also set aside the decision of the Appeal Court Gombe Division, which affirmed the decision of the trial court that declared Machina the senatorial candidate for Yobe North. In a dissenting decision by Justices Emmanuel Ajim and Adamu Jaworo, the Apex Court said Ahmed Lawan never participated in the APC primary held on 28 May as he withdrew voluntarily to participate in the presidential primary held on 8th June 2022. The minority decision held that in the conduct of another primary on June 9, 2022, where Lawan emerged, was in breach of Section 84(5) of the Electoral Act, as the APC never cancelled the primary held on 28 May before organizing another.
And in fact, the judiciary generally, for making this kind of judgment to strengthen our democracy. Because it's not only for politicians to work and strengthen democracy, is for all of us, and all the institutions have some roles to play. So I commend the Supreme Court and the judiciary in general.
You are still watching OGTV News. Still to come, President Buhari vows to sanction those who kill several travelers, including 16 Nigerians in Burkina Faso. These and more stories after the break. Glad to have you again. The presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC has promised that the perpetrators of banditry and terrorism will be brought to justice, as his administration will ensure security of lives and property if elected. Tinubu made the promise at the presidential rally held in Katsina. The APC flag bearer noted that he would ensure that the manifestos of the party are painstakingly implemented in order to guarantee security of lives and property of the common man.
I salute and condole all of you here. We share the joy. We participate in the money. We share the sorrow, the pain that you go through. But only Allah can soothe the pain of many orphans and many widows they created. We will promise one thing and many more, that they will not win. The wicked shall perish.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who addressed the crowd in Hausa language, urged them to vote APC and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, noting that the APC candidate is a worthy successor who's tested and trusted. A full-time president of the Organization for Advancement of Nigerians in New York, Michael Agbolade Adeniyi, has lent his voice to the call for diasporal voting ahead of the February 25th polls. Mr. Adeniyi believes that activating diasporans' right to vote will turn them into active participants in the nation's policy. He made this known on an OGTV current affairs program, Hot Seat.
we are certainly right for it anyway. I was involved in this issue a couple of years ago from the US, fighting for diaspora voting, diaspora right to vote anyway. Why not? Nigeria, we're talking about remitting $21 billion annually. Okay, this is like payment without representation, which is unfair to us anyway. Why can't we participate in the election process when we are contributing so much to the nation? Okay, so don't let just be passive participants. Let's be active participants as well. You know, the new technology can allow that easily. Nigerians can vote from their homes. Okay, they can go to the embassy, consulate to go and vote. So there's absolutely nothing that is stopping us. If the will to do it is there, you know, and I don't know why the National Assembly hasn't even passed the vote, because this has been for decades now, not just for years, for decades. We have been fighting for diaspora right to vote.
The full interview comes up on Tuesday, 7th February at 9:30 in the morning. Ideology is a critical component of a viable political system and the most important vehicle of any political party. Lack of ideology in Nigerian democracy remains constant in the political space. Aderonke Adeyemi in this report highlights the implications of this on Nigeria's democracy and the need to consolidate on the process. Her report.
As one of the most vital units of liberal democracy, a political party must have a clearly defined ideology, which will determine the priorities captured in its manifesto and the policy preferences it chooses to take in response to challenges. Of course, there is nothing wrong with the functional objective of chasing victory at the polls. Elections are, after all about seeking and acquiring power to take a country in a certain direction. But when the ideological underpinning of a political party is non-existent, a deplorable state is inevitable.
Ideology is talking about what the party represents, what the party believes, the objective, the goal, what we want to do for the people. And that should form the basis for anybody to join any political party.
The reverse is the case, because these political prostitutes are very many now. They will just be moving from one party to another because they are not well versed, or they are not comfortable with the ideology of that party. So in fact, within 2-3 months, you will see a politician in Nigeria moving from one party to another.
Ideologies in Nigeria have so far been set by the mood of the leader, which is translated through the party's view on economic, social and cultural policies.
We have situations where at every point in time it is the individual, that manages to emerge as maybe the president, that determines what direction the party goes. At the end of it, and same thing at the level of the states, and that has not helped us.
However, the weak ideological foundation of Nigerian political parties is a hole in the heart of Nigerian democracy that requires urgent attention.
And I think it is important that we give this, the attention that we're giving it now, and continue to hope that as maybe more enlightened people get involved in party politics, we'll be able to start shaping it up.
When you think and you take action, youths, everybody coming on board now to participate, to say enough of this nonsense. Political education, as I'm saying it now, we are educating people. As election is coming, don't collect money from anybody to vote. Vote your conscience. Vote leaders that will represent you very well, leaders that will make society better for us.
Respondents, however, added that ideology is not as important as having competent state capacity in restructuring, which goes beyond ideological stance and more into building competent institutions that cannot be hijacked by politicians. Aderonke Adeyemi, OGTV News.
The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdulrashid Bawa, has been committed to prison for allegedly disobeying court order. The court also directed the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to effect Bawa's arrest and remand him in Kuje prison for the next 14 days until he purges himself of the contempt. Justice R.O. Ayola of the Kogi State High Court, in his judgment on Monday, granted the application for committal to prison of the EFCC chairman for disobeying a court ruling delivered on November 30, 2022, wherein the EFCC chairman was directed to produce the applicants in the case, Ali Bello. Ali Bello had dragged Bawa to court for arresting and detaining him illegally with a court ruling in his favor, only for the EFCC to arraign him for alleged money laundering 3 days after the ruling. The court had also ordered the respondents to tender an apology to the applicant in a national newspaper and awarded 10 million naira compensation for him. President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday said those who killed several travelers, including 16 Nigerians in Burkina Faso, will be appropriately sanctioned. This was, as he said, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the Nigerian embassy in Burkina Faso was engaging with the Burkinabe authorities to ensure that the soldiers who allegedly shot and killed the Muslim pilgrims were prosecuted. Buhari revealed this in a statement on Monday by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, titled "President Buhari Calls Killing of Nigerians in Burkina Faso Unwelcome." At a news conference in